Hey, Climb Strong, Alex here. So we're putting together a ton of videos for our athletes, for our Climb Strong website members. Lots of people are getting in touch with us like, okay, gyms are closing down. I don't have access to strength training implements. I don't have access to climbing holds or campus boards or hang boards. And so we're putting together very quickly here a series of videos that can be useful for y'all at home throughout the weeks. And so today I want to start you off with some strength and power maintenance. The interesting thing is being creative with what you have at your house as implements of strength or power, right? And so we can still get all of the effects of strength and power training or conditioning at our house. It just requires a little bit of creativity and some kind of like an adjustment of your expectations of that session itself, right? And so for our strength and power maintenance, let's think of this as like, 3 to 5 individual sets. And of course we want to warm up really well for this, but for now we're just going to go through the actual superset itself. And so let's just start out with 3 sets for now. And as you get deeper into the cycle, you can start to increase the amount of sets that you're doing. And remember, we're working on strength and power. So if you are working into like higher elevated heart rate, your breathing becomes erratic, like you can't hold conversations anymore. If you find that your repetitions are slowing down, it means you need to rest more. Because within the strength and power realm, we want to stay as high quality and our power output to stay as high as we can. So rest is really important. And that is something that's easy to get away from, especially when you're at your house, because you can just like move through, go watch an episode of Netflix or whatever. But let's remind ourselves to move slow and rest a lot. So the implement that we have for creativity today is we're going to just use a rope bag for certain exercises that might require something and more than just body weight, right? And so we're going to go through goblet back lunges, which we'll use with the rope bag, followed directly by vertical jumps. When we follow a strength exercise directly with a powerful exercise, we can enhance the benefits of both of those exercises. Rest for about 30 to 60 seconds with a mobility exercise, the bretzel here. Ball slams. Okay, traditionally ball slams are done with some kind of slam ball that is like heavy duty, not gonna break, which doesn't actually exist. We break our balls all the time. And so we're gonna use our rope bag for that. And I suggest that you use a rope bag that you might not care about, because potentially it could be like breaking buckles or whatever, but just make sure you pack that super tight. 5 power push-ups, a plank with bag drag, so there'd be like a plank with weight transfer, and then finish the superset out with a kneeling hip flexor stretch. And so that session might look like such, or that set might look like just like this, right? And so normally you'd be like holding a kettlebell or 2 dumbbells or something, and so we'd go standing nice and tall, holding that rope bag, alternating back lunge, 5 on each side, good and slow, get through my 5, drop that bag, and then we're jumping as high as you can for 3 repetitions. So your heart rate's elevated a little bit. We want to bring that down. We want to rest a little bit. And so we're going to go into a good cross body mobility stretch here. And so top leg comes over and across the bottom. I'm going to grab my back foot, put my hand on that front knee, and then I'm opening my shoulders and chest to the ceiling. And you're just going to hang out here for about 30 seconds. And you come out of that and switch sides. Again, remind yourself that if you can't breathe within a mobility exercise, you need to pull back on the intensity a little bit, right? So we can put like, you know, a block under our knee to help us rest and reach that goal of trying to get your shoulder down to the ground. Ideally, you're trying to bring your shoulder and your front knee all the way to the ground on either side. So I've rested for about a minute, maybe a minute and a half, and then I'm going to come over to my ball, my rope bag, trusty rope bag. This is going to really test the abilities of companies' rope bags. And we're just going to slam it on the ground for 5. So it didn't break. Great. So with ball slams or rope bag slams, whatever you're doing, let's make sure that you're getting your whole body into that movement, right? We don't want to do this. That's not powerful at all. In climbing, we're using our entire body to generate momentum and power and be dynamic. So we want to try to mimic that in our general exercises. So my heart rate is up, right? I'm breathing a little bit, and so you want to just like give yourself a chance to chill out, okay? So you don't need to run through all of this. Then you're going to follow that up with 5 power push-ups. And we do dynamic push-ups where you're trying to get some air time off the ground, but a power push-up is more focused on like starting strength and power. And so we want you to start on the ground completely and initiate the movement from a dead body position, right? And so I'm going to start lying on the ground, the chest. At the beginning on the ground, squeezing my butt really tight, pinning my delts into engagement, and then fast. Speed is really important there, so as fast as possible. And you don't go all the way back down to the ground every time, like come out of that engagement, but we're just working on that starting strength, generating as much power and momentum from the very bottom of the position. Then we've got a plank with bag drag, and this is really great. It's interesting how useful a rope bag with a rope can be, okay? And so I'm going to go into a palm plank position. My feet are just outside of hip width, maybe double hip width, and I'm going to try to stay nice and tight here, and then I'm just going to transfer the bag from one side to the other, okay? And we're really just trying to stay stable, square in our hips, not get too much movement from our torso, and just work on stabilizing. And so you'd pull from one side to the other 5 times for 10 repetitions total. And then we'll finish that whole thing up with a kneeling hip flexor stretch for about 30 seconds on each side. And climbers typically have really tight hip flexors because we're in this like stabilizing tight position a lot. And so let's start with, in this low kneeling position, toes tucked in the back. Lots of times people will do this hip flexor stretch with their toes flat on the ground. If you give yourself the opportunity to tuck your toes, you can actually drive your hip a little bit farther forward and get a little bit more intensity and engagement in that lower glute. And so we really just want to be focused on flexing this working side glute, thinking about pelvic tilt, bringing our pelvis up and forward, keeping our core nice and tight, and you should get a good stretch like into your quad. And if this isn't, like if you're not getting too much into your psoas or into your hip flexors, you can extend your front leg and drive into your hip a little bit, but we always want to be pressing back so this weight ends up back over our back knee. Okay, so we don't need to be like super deep here. We just want to be like engaged, right? And you can give yourself a tap in your glute there to make sure that you're still engaged, right? And if you need a little bit more, you can go ahead and raise your hand up overhead or lean away from that. And that starts to get really intense really fast. And so allow yourself to just kind of be easy with the mobility, plenty of rest. Remember, we're working strength and power here. And so we want to be high quality, high power the whole time. And like I said, go ahead and start for like 3 sets of that, and maybe, you know, hold that for a week, a couple sessions a week. And then as you progress through that, you can start to add some sets in the future.